I'm Woody Hunt. I'm chair of the Texas Business Leadership Council. And our challenge is, as a state, if you look at our 25 to 34-year-olds, right, we're slightly under 32% of those that have at least an associate degree or higher. That compares to a U.S. average of 42%. It compares to our highest performing states like Massachusetts and Minnesota, Connecticut, New York, that are in the 50s, the low to mid 50s. If you look at that differential, it's income. In other words, they've got a work population that about another 20% of it can go do complex tasks that our workforce can't do, so they're going to get the jobs that pay more money. So in our Canada, for example, that's at 56%. So if you want to look at Canada at 56% and for their 25 to 34-year-olds, Texas at 31.8, Mexico is almost 21%. So when you look at the future, who are we going to compete for the financial capital that produces the jobs that human capital take? Are we going to be competing with Mexico, which has a wage structure significantly lower than ours, or are we going to be competing with Canada, which has a compensation structure that's much more comparable to ours? So I think if we can get buy-in that we do have a challenge as a state, if you want to look at it, it's the 13th largest economy in the world, and we're going to compete with Canada or Australia or others, or South Korea that's at 63% of their 25 to 34-year-olds that have at least an associate degree. Those are similarly sized in terms of population as we are. We're going to compete for those for the jobs of the future. How are we going to do that if we're significantly less educated? The question is, you have a very income impaired population. So if you really don't adjust for ethnicity or income, it's pretty hard to compare one to the other. I mean, one institution to the next. So to take a four-year university that's highly competitive, that has a different ethnic mix, and to say, well, they've got a graduation rate of X, and then you look at UTEP and you say, well, there's a big gap. The other issues is just the measurement of the graduation rate itself, is that it's incoming students that are for the first time in a college, staying contiguously, not dropping in or dropping back out. That's how they measure it. Well, in a low-income population where you've got ins and outs, where you got to go work for a semester so that you can go back, it really is not a very good measurement. And I think that's widely more recognized. I think probably a better measurement in terms of UTEP is what the total number of graduates they're turning out and what's happening over time. And that number has gone up, I think, over the last, since the 2000, 2001, it's up 70% or so. So they have these ever-increasing larger graduations of students, private universities that are competing against each other, and that have very heavy financial aid, and everybody's expected to be in and out of there in 4 years. Maybe there it has some value, but I think past that it's not scholarly a very good data point. I think one of the policy changes that we need to look at is what I would call incentivizing the pipeline, and that is both at the student level, which the legislature actually did last year by changing the formula for the Texas grant program to essentially say that those that are best prepared get to the head of the line. And because their data, looking over a very long period of time, had shown if they'd been doing that all along, the graduation rates would have been about double for the dollars that they were spending. So that's one example. I think the other example, which is what you're raising the issue on, is to, at the institutional level, at the leadership of our systems and at our institutions, is to begin to change the formula for that. Right now the formula pays based on the 12th day of enrollment. So it's a participation-driven formula. Who's sitting in the seats on the 12th day? If they're not there on the 13th day, it doesn't matter as far as the money. So we begin we're advising or recommending that formula needs to begin to change to where success, completion, is paid for increasingly over time. I don't know how long the transition will be, but I could certainly envision a system where most of the dollars, the state dollars, are oriented toward actually delivering degrees.